The massive doors of the Galactic Council chambers opened with a deep rumble that echoed through the ancient hall. Captain Jake Morrison stepped inside, his black uniform crisp and his expression calm. Behind him walked 6 other humans, each one carrying themselves with quiet dignity. Their footsteps made soft clicking sounds on the polished stone floor as they moved toward the center of the vast circular room. Above them, the dome stretched up into darkness, its walls covered with symbols from dozens of alien civilizations. Floating platforms held the representatives of 12 major species, each one looking down at the humans like judges ready to pass sentence. The air smelled of ozone and strange chemicals that the life support systems pumped in to keep all the more different aliens comfortable. Chancellor Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire sat on the highest platform. His blue skin gleamed under the artificial lights, and his forearms moved restlessly as he watched the humans approach. His species had ruled this part of the galaxy for over 2,000 years, and he carried himself like someone who had never been told no. His large black eyes fixed on Morrison with obvious displeasure. To his left sat Empress Zilnara of the Korthak Trade Federation. Her insect-like features showed no emotion, but her mandibles clicked softly in what Morrison knew was a sign of anticipation. The Korthak controlled most of the galaxy's commerce, and they had grown rich by keeping other species dependent on their trade networks. Her 6 legs shifted on her platform as she prepared to hear the ultimatum delivered. The other council members represented species that had held power for millennia. The floating jellyfish-like Etherians pulsed with soft bioluminescent light. The crystalline Vorthan delegates reflected the chamber's illumination in rainbow patterns. The massive Thranix workers, each one the size of a small building, breathed heavily through their breathing apparatus. All of them had one thing in common. They looked at humanity with barely hidden contempt. Morrison reached the center of the chamber and stopped. His team spread out behind him in a simple line, hands clasped behind their backs, faces showing nothing. The silence stretched for long moments as the aliens stared down at them. Finally, Chancellor Vextar rose from his platform and began to speak. His voice boomed through the chamber's acoustic system, automatically translated into dozens of languages. The human delegation heard it in perfect English, each word carefully chosen to demonstrate the alien's superiority and humanity's weakness. Representatives of the species calling itself human, Vextar began, his tone dripping with condescension. You stand before the Galactic Council to receive judgment on your species' recent actions and future in civilized space. Morrison said, nothing. His blue eyes remained fixed on the Chancellor, but his expression gave away nothing of his thoughts. The other humans stood equally silent, waiting. In the 50 years since your species achieved faster-than-light travel and made contact with civilized races, you have shown a disturbing pattern of behavior, Vextar continued. Your rapid expansion into previously unclaimed systems, your refusal to accept proper guidance from established civilizations, and your reckless technological experimentation have created instability throughout this sector. The Chancellor's forearms gestured dramatically as he warmed to his subject. Your military forces patrol space lanes without proper authorization. Your traders undercut established commercial agreements. Your researchers pursue dangerous technologies without oversight from species with thousands of years more experience. This cannot continue. Empress Zilnara's platform drifted forward slightly. When she spoke, her voice had the metallic quality of her species' vocal modifications. The Korthak Trade Federation has suffered significant losses due to human commercial practices. Your species offers goods and services at prices that destabilize market equilibrium. You refuse to honor exclusive trading agreements that have maintained galactic economic stability for centuries. One of the Etherian delegates pulsed, brighter. Their communication came through bioelectric fields that the translation systems converted to speech. From a research perspective, human advancement rates exceed all statistical models. Your species develops new technologies at speeds that suggest either dangerous recklessness or external assistance. Both possibilities concern the established scientific community. Morrison continued to listen without reaction. His hands remained clasped behind his back, his breathing steady and controlled. The humans had expected this confrontation for months. Intelligence reports had warned them that the major powers were growing increasingly worried about humanity's rapid rise in galactic affairs. What they had not expected was the level of arrogance and condescension being displayed. Chancellor Vextar moved to the climax of his speech. His platforms lowered until he was only slightly above the humans, clearly intended to emphasize his authority while attempting to appear reasonable. Therefore, the Galactic Council has reached a unanimous decision regarding the human species and their future participation in civilized space. The chamber fell completely silent except for the soft humming of life support systems. Even the background chatter from translation systems seemed to pause in anticipation. First, Vextar announced, all human military vessels will be surrendered to Council oversight within 30 standard days. Your species has proven unable to use military force responsibly and will therefore operate under the protection and guidance of established powers. Morrison's expression did not change, but something shifted in his posture that his team recognized. They had trained together for years, and subtle signs passed between them like ripples in still water. Second, all human research and development projects will be subject to oversight and approval by Council scientific committees. Your reckless experimentation endangers not only your own species, but potentially all life in this galaxy. The Chancellor paused for effect, clearly enjoying what he believed was humanity's humiliation. Third, human commercial activities will operate under trade agreements established and monitored by existing economic powers. The Korthak Trade Federation will assume responsibility for integrating human commerce into stable galactic markets. Empress A. Zilnara's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. The other council members shifted on their platforms, some showing obvious pleasure at humanity's reduction to client status. Finally, Chancellor Vextar continued, human representation in galactic affairs will be reduced to observer status. Your species will learn proper civilized behavior under the guidance of races with thousands of years more experience in interstellar relations. The ultimatum hung in the air like a physical presence. The aliens expected protests, demands for negotiation, or desperate attempts to bargain for better terms. Species facing similar ultimatums typically began immediately pleading for mercy, or promising compliance with whatever conditions might allow them to maintain some semblance of dignity. Instead, Captain Morrison simply nodded once. The gesture was so slight that some of the aliens missed it entirely. Then he reached into his uniform and withdrew a small communication device. The action was so calm and deliberate that none of the council members felt threatened or concerned. Morrison activated the device with a soft click. Every human settlement, ship, research station, and outpost throughout the galaxy received his transmission simultaneously. The message reached mining colonies on the edge of Threnic space, research teams working with Etherian scientists, trade missions negotiating with Korthak merchants, and military units protecting alien shipping lanes from pirates. Morrison spoke, 4 words in a clear, steady voice that carried absolutely no emotion whatsoever. Protocol 7, come home. Then he deactivated the device and looked back up at Chancellor Vextar. The alien leader waited for the usual human response of argument, negotiation, or pleading. Instead, Morrison simply said, I understand your position, Chancellor. Thank you for making it clear. Without another word, Morrison turned and walked toward the chamber doors. His team fell in behind him, their movements coordinated and purposeful. Their footsteps echoed in the suddenly quiet chamber as they made their way across the polished floor. The massive doors opened automatically as they approached. Morrison walked through first, followed by his entire diplomatic team. None of them looked back. None of them offered parting words or final protests. They simply left the council chamber exactly as they had entered it, with quiet dignity and absolute composure. The doors closed behind them with the same deep rumble that had announced their arrival. Inside the chamber, the alien representatives sat in stunned silence, trying to process what had just happened. They had delivered what they believed was a crushing ultimatum to an upstart species. But somehow, the humans had made their exit feel like a victory, rather than a defeat. Chancellor, Vextar stared at the closed doors for long moments before turning to address his fellow council members. "Well," he said, his voice showing the first hint of uncertainty he had displayed all day. "That was easier than expected." But even as he spoke the words, something cold settled in his stomach. In all his years of galactic diplomacy, he had never seen any species react to an ultimatum with such complete calm. Usually there were threats, promises, or desperate attempts at negotiation. The humans had done none of those things. They had Simi. Commander Lisa Hayes was reviewing trade contracts in her cabin aboard the merchant vessel New Horizons when Morrison's message reached her. The ship hung in orbit around Threnix Prime, the massive industrial world that served as the central hub for the insect species manufacturing empire. Through her porthole, she could see the planet's surface covered with enormous hive structures that stretched toward the sky like metallic mountains. The communication device on her desk chimed softly with an incoming priority transmission. Lisa activated it without looking up from her paperwork, expecting routine updates from Earth's commercial division. Instead, Morrison's voice filled the small cabin with 4 simple words that changed everything. Protocol 7, come home. Lisa's pen stopped moving across the contract she had been reviewing. Her hand remained perfectly steady, but her mind immediately shifted into the crisis protocols that every human in diplomatic or commercial service had memorized. Protocol 7 meant total withdrawal from all galactic activities with immediate effect. No explanations, no negotiations, no delays. She set down her pen and activated her ship's internal communication system. Her voice remained calm and professional as she addressed her crew of 30 humans currently scattered throughout the Threnix commercial complex below. All hands. This is Commander Hayes. Initiate immediate departure procedures. All personnel are to return to the ship within 2 hours. No exceptions. Her communications officer, Lieutenant Dan Cooper, responded within seconds. Commander, we're in the middle of major contract negotiations with the Threnix Trade Authority. Walking away now will cost us millions in potential deals. Understood, Lieutenant. Proceed with departure preparations anyway. Lisa stood up and looked out at the planet below. The New Horizons had been negotiating mining rights for rare metals that Earth's expanding industrial base desperately needed. The Threnix had been difficult partners, demanding increasingly harsh terms and using their monopoly on certain materials to force human traders into unfavorable agreements. The contracts on her desk would have secured resources for the next decade, but at prices that bordered on extortion. Now none of that mattered anymore. She activated her personal communicator and contacted the Threnix Trade Authority directly. The response came through the translation system in the clicking, buzzing language of the insect species. Commander Hayes, this is Trade Director Zixtal. We have detected unusual activity on your vessel. We trust you are not attempting to withdraw from our negotiations. Trade Director, I am informing you that all human commercial activities with the Threnix Empire are being terminated immediately. Our people will be departing within 2 hours. The silence that followed lasted nearly a full minute. When Zixtal responded, his translated voice carried notes of confusion and anger. Commander, we have contracts pending worth hundreds of millions of credits. Your species cannot simply walk away from legal obligations. Lisa gathered the contract papers from her desk and placed them in the document shredder. The machine hummed quietly as it destroyed weeks of negotiation work. Trade Director, all pending contracts are hereby voided. Earth will not be pursuing any further commercial relationships with the Threnix Empire. This is unacceptable. The Galactic Trade Commission will hear of this breach of protocol. Your species will face severe penalties for this behavior. Understood. Hayes out. Lisa cut the communication and began packing her personal belongings. Everything fit into a single bag, just as Protocol 7 required. All humans serving in diplomatic or commercial positions were trained to maintain minimal personal possessions that could be quickly abandoned if necessary. Her door chimed and Lieutenant Cooper entered. His face showed the same calm professionalism that all human personnel maintained in crisis situations. Commander, the Threnix authorities are demanding explanations. They're threatening to impound our ship if we attempt to leave without completing Our contractual obligations. Let them try, Lieutenant. Have all departments reported in? Yes, ma'am. Engineering reports departure readiness in 90 minutes. All personnel are returning to the ship ahead of schedule. The Threenix seemed genuinely shocked that we're actually leaving. Lisa nodded and picked up her bag. They expected us to beg for better terms eventually. They've been using their resource monopoly to squeeze every human trading mission for months. Now they'll have to find new buyers for their materials. As she walked through the ship's corridors toward the bridge, Lisa passed crew members who were securing equipment and preparing for immediate departure. Everyone moved with quiet efficiency, following procedures they had drilled countless times, but never expected to use. The atmosphere was tense but controlled, like a military unit executing a well-rehearsed operation. On the bridge, her navigation officer was plotting a direct course back to Earth. The route would take them through several systems where other human operations were likely implementing their own Protocol 7 procedures. Lisa settled into her command chair and activated the ship's external sensors to monitor local space traffic. Commander, her sensor operator reported, we're detecting similar departures throughout the system. The research station at Threenix, Beta, is powering down and evacuating. The mining operation on Threenix Gamma is shutting down their equipment and loading their personnel transports. Lisa was not surprised. Protocol 7 was designed to be implemented simultaneously across all human operations in a given region. The goal was to create a coordinated withdrawal that would be impossible for alien authorities to stop or delay through bureaucratic interference. Her communications officer looked up from his station. Commander, I'm receiving messages from other human operations throughout Threenix space. Everyone's implementing Protocol 7. The entire human presence in this system is evacuating. On the main screen, Lisa watched as human vessels throughout the Threenix system began moving toward jump, points that would take them back to human space. Cargo ships abandoned profitable runs. Research vessels left behind years of scientific work. Even the small diplomatic outpost that had been negotiating cultural exchange agreements was packing up and preparing to depart. The scale of the operation was impressive, but what struck Lisa most was the complete silence from the human side. No protests were filed with local authorities. No complaints were registered with galactic oversight bodies. No explanations were offered to confused alien partners. The humans simply announced their departure and left. Commander Hayes, her communications officer, called out. The Threenix Trade Authority is requesting immediate communication. They're offering significant concessions on the pending contracts. No response, Lieutenant. Maintain communication silence except for necessary departure procedures. Lisa watched through the view screen as the massive industrial complexes on Threenix Prime continued their operations as if nothing had changed. But she knew that within days, the Threenix would begin feeling the effects of humanity's sudden absence. Human traders had been among their most reliable customers for rare materials. Human researchers had been contributing valuable innovations to Threenix manufacturing processes. Human diplomatic presence had helped mediate disputes between the Threenix and their neighboring species. All of that was ending right now. Departure clearance has been granted by local traffic control, her navigation officer reported. They seem eager to see us leave now that they realize we're serious about going. Take us out, Lieutenant. Set course for the Sol system, maximum sustainable speed. The New Horizons turned away from Threenix Prime and accelerated toward the jump point that would take them out of the system. Behind them, other human vessels were doing the same thing. Within hours, the entire human commercial presence in Threenix space would be gone. As they entered hyperspace, Lisa opened a secure channel to other human commanders who were implementing Protocol 7 in their own regions. The reports that came back painted the same picture everywhere. Research teams were abandoning joint projects with alien scientists. Trade missions were walking away from profitable deals. Diplomatic staff were clearing out embassy buildings without filing formal protests or requests for negotiation. Commander Paul Rogers reported from the Vorthon crystal fields, where human miners had been extracting rare crystals used in advanced electronics. We've shut down all mining operations and recalled our people. The Vorthon are offering us exclusive extraction rights if we'll stay, but we're maintaining communication silence and proceeding with departure. Captain Helen Martinez checked in from the Etherian Research Collective, where human scientists had been working on joint projects involving bioelectric technologies. All research data has been secured and our people are withdrawing. The Etherian are trying to understand what's happening, but we're not providing any explanations. The pattern was identical across dozens of star systems. Humanity was implementing the largest coordinated withdrawal in galactic history, and they were doing it without saying a single word of complaint or explanation to anyone. Lisa reviewed the intelligence reports that had been flowing to Earth for months before Morrison's transmission. The major galactic powers had been growing increasingly hostile toward human expansion and influence. Trade agreements had become more restrictive. Research partnerships had been limité. 6 months had passed since Captain Morrison delivered his forward message, and the galaxy was learning what silence truly meant. In the depths of Earth's orbital command center, Morrison sat at his new desk, reviewing reports from across human space. His title had changed from captain to director of the Human Isolation Protocol, but his expression remained as calm and unreadable as it had been in the council chambers. The reports painted a picture of systematic transformation. Every human, settlement, research facility, and military base had successfully withdrawn from alien space. Not a single human remained outside the boundaries of the systems that Earth had claimed and developed over the past 50 years. The evacuation had been so complete that some alien governments were still discovering abandoned human facilities weeks after the exodus ended. Morrison activated his communication system and connected with Dr. Amy Rodriguez at the Luna Research Complex. Her face appeared on his screen, showing the focused intensity that had made her humanity's leading expert on advanced physics. Behind her, Morrison could see the massive construction projects that had been launched the moment Protocol 7 began. "Director Morrison," she said, "Project Lighthouse is proceeding ahead of schedule, without the restrictions and oversight requirements we faced while working with alien species. Our research teams are making breakthrough discoveries almost daily." Morrison nodded. "Show me the latest developments, Doctor." The screen shifted to display holographic models of new technologies that human researchers had developed in complete isolation. Morrison had seen similar presentations every week since the exodus began, but the pace of advancement still impressed him. Freed from the bureaucratic limitations of interspecies cooperation and the need to share all discoveries with alien oversight committees, human innovation had exploded. "We've perfected the gravity manipulation systems that the Etherian insisted were too dangerous to develop," Rodriguez explained. "Our new ships can alter their mass and inertia at will, making them effectively immune to conventional weapons and allowing for previously impossible maneuvers." She gestured, and the hologram showed sleek vessels that seemed to dance through space in ways that defied traditional physics. The quantum tunnel drives are operational and allow instantaneous travel between any 2 points in space, eliminating the need for traditional hyperspace routes that alien species control. Morrison studied the technical specifications with interest. During humanity's time in galactic society, alien scientific committees had repeatedly blocked human research into these areas, claiming they were too dangerous or required centuries more study before implementation. Now human scientists had not only proven the technologies were safe, but had advanced them far beyond what the aliens thought possible. "What about defensive capabilities?" Morrison asked. Rodriguez smiled with the satisfaction of someone who had solved a particularly challenging puzzle. "The new energy shield systems can absorb and redirect any form of attack, turning enemy weapons against themselves. Our test facilities have successfully defended against simulated attacks that would destroy entire alien fleets." The hologram shifted to show defensive demonstrations that Morrison found remarkable, even after months of similar reports. Beam weapons were absorbed and converted to power. Missile attacks were redirected back at their sources. Even planet-killing weapons were neutralized and their energy redirected to useful purposes. "More importantly," Rodriguez continued, "we've developed manufacturing systems that can build entire fleets in weeks rather than years. The new automated shipyards are producing vessels at a rate that exceeds the combined output of all alien civilizations." Morrison had seen those shipyards during his tours of the outer colonies. Massive structures that stretched across entire asteroid fields, building ships with designs that no alien engineer could comprehend. The construction was so efficient and advanced that a single facility could produce more vessels in a month than most alien species built in a decade. His communication system chimed with an incoming priority message from Admiral Steve Parker at the Military Coordination Center. Morrison accepted the connection, and Parker's weathered face appeared on a secondary screen. "Director, we've completed the analysis of galactic conditions since our withdrawal," Parker reported. "The situation is deteriorating faster than our worst-case projections predicted." Morrison was not surprised. Intelligence reports had been tracking the collapse of galactic stability since the exodus began. "Give me the summary, Admiral." Parker activated his own display, showing star charts that illustrated the growing chaos across alien space. Red markers indicated conflicts, yellow showed economic disruption, and orange marked areas where governmental authority had completely collapsed. "The Korthak Trade Federation has lost 60% of its shipping revenue," Parker began. "Without human escorts protecting their trade routes, piracy has increased by over 400%. Empress Zilnara's government is facing internal rebellion from member species who are demanding better security." The star chart showed vast regions where Korthak commercial networks had simply ceased operating. Shipping lanes that had been safe for centuries were now too dangerous for civilian vessels to traverse without massive military escorts that the Korthak could not afford to provide. "The Zephyrian Empire is facing similar problems," Parker continued. "Their military forces were designed for ceremonial purposes and political intimidation, not actual combat. When they tried to take over security duties that human forces previously handled, they suffered devastating losses to pirate fleets and rebel groups." Morrison studied the tactical reports with professional interest. The Zephyrian military had impressive-looking ships and elaborate uniforms, but they had relied on their political authority and the threat of economic sanctions to maintain order. When faced with actual fighting, their forces had proven to be poorly trained and equipped with outdated weapons. "What about the Council itself?" Morrison asked. Parker's expression grew grim. "Chancellor Vextar is barely maintaining control of his own empire, let alone providing leadership for the galactic community. 3 member species have formally withdrawn from the Council, claiming it can no longer provide the stability and security that justified their membership." The communication system chimed again, and Morrison accepted a connection from the Intelligence Division. Commander Janet Stone appeared on his screen, her face showing the controlled tension of someone delivering very serious news. "Director, we've intercepted communications indicating that the Galactic Council is planning to send a delegation to Earth," Stone reported. "They want to negotiate humanity's return to galactic society." Morrison almost smiled. Almost. Instead, he maintained his usual neutral expression and asked, "What are they offering? Full technological sharing, equal representation in all council decisions, and complete autonomy for human space," Stone replied. "They're essentially offering everything they refused to consider before our withdrawal." Morrison activated his own intelligence reports and reviewed the data that human monitoring stations had been collecting throughout alien space. The picture was clear and getting worse every day. The galactic civilization that the aliens had built over millennia was collapsing without human participation. The Etherian Research Collective had lost access to human innovation and was struggling to solve basic technical problems that joint human-alien teams had previously handled with ease. Their most advanced projects had ground to a halt without human creativity and problem-solving abilities. The Aquatic Federation's underwater cities were facing environmental crises that human, terraforming experts had been helping them prevent. Without that assistance, entire ocean worlds were beginning to show signs of ecological collapse. Even the massive Thranix manufacturing complexes were operating at reduced capacity because they had become dependent on human-designed efficiency. Improvements in human-operated quality control systems. "Director," Rodriguez called from Luna Complex, "we're also detecting increased alien surveillance of human space boundaries. They're clearly trying to gather intelligence about our current capabilities." Morrison was aware of the surveillance attempts. Human sensor networks had detected dozens of alien spy ships attempting to gather information about the new technologies and defensive systems that humanity had developed. Most of the surveillance craft had been detected and quietly escorted away from human space without incident. "Let them look," Morrison said. "They won't understand what they're seeing anyway." That was not arrogance speaking, but simple fact. Human technology had advanced so far beyond alien capabilities during the isolation period that their scientists would not be able to comprehend the principles behind most human innovations. It would be like showing a steam engine to someone who had just invented the wheel. Morrison closed the communication channels and sat back in his chair, looking out at the Earth through his office windows. The planet looked peaceful from orbit, but he knew that beneath the calm surface humanity was transforming itself at a pace that would have been impossible while constrained by galactic politics and alien oversight. The silence had given them freedom, and that freedom had unleashed human potential in ways that even Morrison had not fully anticipated. The species that, 2 years after humanity's departure from galactic society, the alien civilizations were facing complete collapse. Commander Rick Stone guided his stealth reconnaissance vessel Shadowrunner through the outer edges of what had once been human space, but his mission was not to patrol the boundaries. He was heading deeper into the void to observe something that would change everything. The galaxy thought it knew about humanity. The Shadowrunner was invisible to all known detection methods, using technology that human engineers had developed during their isolation. Its hull bent light around itself. Its engines produced no detectable emissions, and its passage through space left no trace that alien sensors could identify. Stone had been chosen for this mission because of his ability to remain calm under extraordinary circumstances, but what he was about to witness would test even his considerable composure. "Commander," his sensor operator, Lieutenant Carol Davis, called from her station, "We're approaching the target coordinates, beginning detailed scans of the region." Stone studied the readings that appeared on his screens and felt his breath catch in his throat. The empty space that alien star charts showed as uninhabited and worthless was anything but empty. Massive structures filled the void between star systems, connected by energy bridges that stretched across distances that should have made such construction impossible. "My God," whispered his navigation officer, Lieutenant Frank Miller, as the ship's advanced sensors revealed the true scope of what humanity had built in secret. "How many ships are out there?" Stone activated the ship's most powerful scanning systems and began counting. The numbers that appeared on his screen seemed impossible at first, so he ran the scans again. The results were the same. Humanity had built a fleet that dwarfed the combined military forces of every alien civilization in the galaxy. But these were not the primitive vessels that aliens remembered from humanity's time in galactic society. The ships that filled the void were sleek and elegant, their hulls flowing like liquid metal, their weapons systems integrated so smoothly that they appeared to be natural extensions of the vessels themselves. They moved through space with grace that defied traditional physics, turning and accelerating in ways that should have torn any crew apart from gravitational forces. "Commander," Davis reported, her voice tight with amazement, "I'm detecting construction facilities that span entire solar systems. The scale of these operations is beyond anything in our database." Stone adjusted their course to get a better view of the nearest construction complex and immediately understood why the aliens had failed to detect humanity's true activities. The facilities were built in the empty spaces between star systems, hidden in regions that no alien civilization bothered to explore because they contained no planets or resources worth claiming. Massive shipyards stretched across thousands of kilometers, their assembly lines producing vessels at a rate that seemed impossible even with the most advanced automation systems. Raw materials flowed into the facilities through quantum tunnels that connected to mining operations in distant regions of space. The entire process was so efficient and advanced that it could produce a capital ship in the time it would take alien facilities to manufacture a simple fighter craft. "Look at the design specifications," Miller said as he studied the technical readouts their sensors were gathering. "These ships don't use any technology we've seen before. The power systems are completely different from anything in our databases." Stone examined the energy signatures and realized that humanity had not just advanced beyond alien technology during their isolation. They had created entirely new branches of science that the galaxy had never imagined. The ships used controlled, gravity fields as both propulsion and weapon systems. Their hulls were composed of materials that could shift between states of matter at will. Their defensive systems could redirect any form of attack back at its source, while simultaneously converting the incoming energy to power their own systems. "Commander," Davis called out urgently, "we have movement from one of the human patrol vessels. They've detected our presence." Stone was not surprised. The stealth systems on Shadowrunner were the most advanced that alien technology could produce, but humanity had clearly developed detection methods that could penetrate any concealment. On his main screen, he watched as a human patrol ship approached their position with movements so fluid and precise that it seemed to flow rather than fly through space. The human vessel was smaller than Shadowrunner but radiated power signatures that indicated it could destroy his ship with ease. Stone made a decision that would have been unthinkable during his training in alien military academies. He deactivated all weapons systems and opened a communication channel. "Human vessel, this is Commander Rick Stone of the reconnaissance ship Shadowrunner. We mean no harm and request permission to observe your operations." The response came immediately, delivered in perfect galactic standard by a calm human voice. "Commander Stone, this is Captain Neil Roberts of the UES Vigilant. You are welcome to observe our training exercises, but please maintain your current position for safety reasons." Stone felt his worldview shift as he realized that humanity was not hiding their capabilities out of fear or secrecy. They simply had not bothered to inform the galaxy about their advancement because they no longer considered alien opinions relevant to their activities. "Captain Roberts," Stone replied, "may I ask what we are observing?" "Routine fleet maneuvers, Commander. We conduct these exercises regularly to maintain readiness." What Stone was watching through his sensors was far from routine by any standard he understood. Thousands of human ships were moving through complex formations that demonstrated capabilities beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Vessels phased in and out of normal space at will. Weapons fired that could reshape matter at the quantum level. Defensive fields deflected attacks that would have destroyed entire planets. "Captain," Stone asked carefully, "how many ships are participating in these exercises?" "Approximately 12,000 vessels from the 3rd Defense Fleet, Commander. This is a relatively small training operation." Stone felt the blood drain from his face as he realized the implications. If this was a small operation conducted by one of multiple defense fleets, then humanity possessed military capabilities that exceeded the combined forces of the entire galaxy by orders of magnitude. "Commander," Davis whispered from her station, "I'm detecting similar operations in 17 other regions throughout this sector. The total number of human vessels must be in the hundreds of thousands." Stone opened a secure communication channel back to Alien Intelligence Headquarters and began transmitting his observations. The report he was sending would terrify every government in the galaxy, but they needed to understand what humanity had become during their 2 years of isolation. His communication system chimed with an incoming message from General Kate Murphy, the human commander overseeing the fleet exercises. Her image appeared on his screen, showing a middle-aged woman with gray hair and eyes that held depths of knowledge and experience that Stone found unsettling. "Commander Stone," she said in a friendly tone that somehow made her more intimidating, rather than less. "We understand that you're gathering intelligence for the alien governments. Please feel free to transmit any information you collect. We want your leaders to have a complete understanding of the current situation." Stone realized that humanity was not just unconcerned about alien surveillance. They actively wanted the galaxy to know what they had built. The message was clear without being spoken. Humanity had moved so far beyond alien capabilities that they felt no need for secrecy or defensive posturing. "General Murphy," Stone managed to say, "may I ask why you're allowing us to observe these operations?" Murphy smiled with genuine warmth. "Commander, humanity learned an important lesson from our time in galactic society. Misunderstandings arise when communication breaks down. We want to ensure that no one has unrealistic expectations about the current balance of power." Stone understood. Humanity was providing alien intelligence services with accurate information about their capabilities to prevent any government from making the catastrophic mistake of attempting military action against human space. "We appreciate your transparency, General," Stone replied. You're welcome, Commander. Please observe as long as you wish. If you have questions about anything you see, feel free to ask. We're happy to provide explanations. Stone spent the next several hours documenting human capabilities that redefined everything the galaxy thought possible. Ships that could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Weapons that could restructure matter at the subatomic level. Defensive systems that made entire fleets effectively invulnerable to any known form of attack. But what impressed him most was not the technology itself, but the calm professionalism with which humanity wielded it. There were no aggressive displays or intimidating demonstrations. The humans conducted their exercises with the same quiet efficiency they had shown during their diplomatic withdrawal 2 years earlier. When Shadowrunner finally departed the region and began its journey back to alien space, Stone carried with him the knowledge that would shatter every assumption the galaxy held about humanity's place in the cosmic order. The species that had walked away from. 5 years had passed since Captain Morrison walked out of the Galactic Council chambers, and the galaxy had become a wasteland of failed civilizations and collapsed governments. Admiral Steve Parker, now Supreme Commander of Human Defense Forces, stood in his office aboard the orbital station that circled Earth, watching through the massive windows as a small alien delegation approached in a battered transport ship. The vessel was nothing like the magnificent diplomatic cruisers that had once carried alien ambassadors between star systems. Its hull showed signs of combat damage and hasty repairs. Its engines produced irregular energy signatures that suggested failing components and inadequate maintenance. Most telling of all, it transmitted identification codes requesting safe passage rather than demanding it as representatives of superior civilizations. Parker activated his communication system and connected with Captain Morrison, who now served as Earth's Director of External Affairs. Morrison's face appeared on the screen, showing the same calm expression he had maintained throughout the 5 years of humanity's isolation. Behind him, Parker could see the gleaming corridors of the Luna complex, where human civilization continued its rapid advancement. Admiral, Morrison said, I assume you're observing our visitors? Yes, Director. The delegation includes Chancellor Vexitar of what remains of the Zephyrian Empire, former Empress Zilnara, representing the collapsed Korthak Trade Federation, and representatives from 6 other species whose governments barely exist anymore. Morrison nodded. Intelligence reports had been tracking the complete disintegration of galactic civilization for months. The Zephyrian Empire had fractured into dozens of warring factions after Vexitar lost control of his military forces. The Korthak Trade Federation had collapsed when piracy made interstellar commerce too dangerous to maintain. Most of the other major civilizations had simply ceased to function as organized societies. What do they want? Morrison asked, though both men already knew the answer. The same thing they've been requesting through intermediaries for 2 years, Parker replied. They want humanity to return to galactic society and help them restore order to the chaos they created. Morrison almost smiled at the irony. The same species that had demanded humanity submit to their authority 5 years ago were now begging for human intervention to save them from the consequences of their own arrogance. Grant them permission to land at Luna Complex, Morrison said. I'll meet with them personally. Parker was not surprised by Morrison's decision. Despite everything the aliens had done, humanity had never abandoned its fundamental principles. They would listen to the delegation and treat them with the same dignity they had shown during their original departure from the Council. 3 hours later, Morrison stood in the Luna Complex conference room as the alien delegation was escorted inside by human security personnel. The change in the aliens' appearance was shocking. Chancellor Vexitar's blue skin had faded to a dull gray, and his once proud bearing had been replaced by the stooped posture of defeat. Empress Zilnara's chitinous shell showed cracks and damage that spoke of malnutrition and stress. The other delegates represented species that Morrison barely recognized from their previous encounters. The proud Etherian ambassador now pulsed, with dim, erratic light. The crystalline Vorthan delegate had lost much of his natural luster. Even the massive Threnix representative seemed smaller and weaker than the towering figures Morrison remembered from the council chambers. Morrison gestured toward the conference table, and the aliens took their seats with movements that suggested They were not accustomed to being treated with courtesy anymore. The room fell silent as both sides studied each other across the polished surface. Finally, Chancellor Vextar spoke, his voice carrying none of the arrogance and authority that Morrison remembered from their last meeting. Director Morrison, we have come to offer humanity our formal apologies for the ultimatum we delivered 5 years ago. We now understand that we made a terrible mistake. Morrison listened without changing his expression. What kind of mistake, Chancellor? We underestimated your species, Vextar admitted, his forearms trembling slightly. We believed that forcing you into submission would restore stability to the galaxy. Instead, our actions led to the collapse of everything we had built over thousands of years. Former Empress Zilnara leaned forward, her mandibles clicking nervously. Director, the galaxy is dying without human participation. Trade has collapsed, research has stagnated, and conflicts rage everywhere because there is no longer any force capable of maintaining peace. Morrison activated a holographic display that showed current conditions throughout alien space. Red markers indicated active conflicts. Yellow showed regions of complete governmental collapse, and orange marked areas where entire civilizations had simply ceased to exist. Nearly 70% of the galaxy was now colored in various shades of chaos and destruction. We are prepared to offer humanity complete autonomy, unlimited access to all alien technologies, and leadership positions in a new galactic government, Vextar continued desperately. We will accept any terms you consider reasonable if you will help us restore order. Morrison studied the holographic display for long moments before responding. What makes you believe that humanity has any interest in returning to galactic politics? The question seemed to confuse the aliens. The Etherian delegate pulsed with uncertain colors as he responded. Surely your species understands that the collapse of galactic civilization threatens everyone, including humanity. Morrison activated another display, this one showing the current state of human space. The aliens stared in amazement at images of thriving colonies, massive construction projects, and technological achievements that exceeded anything in their experience. Entire star systems had been transformed into gardens of incredible beauty and productivity. Cities floated in the vacuum of space, connected by bridges of pure energy. Vessels moved between the stars using transportation methods that seemed to ignore the normal laws of physics. As you can see, Morrison said calmly, humanity is not threatened by galactic collapse. We have built a civilization that exists independently of anything the galaxy offers. Dr. Amy Rodriguez entered the conference room carrying a small device that she placed on the table. The device projected images of human achievements that left the alien delegation speechless. Manufacturing systems that could create entire worlds. Medical technologies that had effectively eliminated death from age or disease. Energy sources that could power civilizations for millions of years without depleting any natural resources. Director, Rodriguez said, we've also solved the problems that your species are currently facing. Our automated guardian systems have been preventing the extinction of primitive species throughout the galaxy, and our intervention forces have stopped several conflicts that would have resulted in planetary destruction. Morrison noted the shocked expressions on the aliens' faces as they realized the implications. You've been protecting alien civilizations, Vextar asked weakly. We've been protecting innocent lives, Morrison corrected. Not because we owe the galaxy anything, but because preventing unnecessary suffering is simply the right thing to do. The admission hit the alien delegates like a physical blow. Humanity had not only survived their abandonment of galactic society, they had evolved into the role of silent guardians, protecting the very civilizations that had tried to destroy them. But you've done this without seeking recognition or gratitude, the Etherian delegate observed, his bioluminescence flickering with confusion. Recognition and gratitude are not necessary for doing what is right, Morrison replied. Chancellor Vextar leaned back in his chair, finally understanding the true scope of humanity's transformation. You no longer need us at all, do you? Morrison's expression remained neutral as he delivered the answer that would define the galaxy's future. Chancellor, humanity learned an important lesson during our time in galactic society. We discovered that our potential was limited only by our willingness to accept the limitations that others tried to impose on us. He gestured toward the holographic displays showing human achievements. When you forced us to leave, you removed those limitations. We spent 5 years discovering what we could accomplish when we were free to pursue our full potential without interference or oversight. Dr. Rodriguez activated additional displays showing human exploration into regions of space that alien civilizations had never imagined visiting. We've expanded beyond this galaxy and made contact with forms of life that exist in dimensions your science cannot perceive. We've learned to manipulate the fundamental forces that shape reality itself. The alien delegates sat in stunned silence as they realized that humanity had not just advanced beyond their comprehension, they had transcended the entire framework within which galactic civilization operated. So you will not return to help us rebuild? Zilnara asked, her voice barely audible. Morrison stood and walked to the window that looked out at Earth. The planet below showed no signs of the industrial civilization that had once covered its surface. Instead, it appeared to be a garden world of incredible beauty, its cities invisible beneath canopies of restored forests and clean oceans. The galaxy is welcome to rebuild, Morrison said without turning around.